maybe not known for his footballing skills, but one of Britain's, one of Ireland's finest actors, Mr. James Nesbitt.
James, we're here for the 60th anniversary of George Best, the legend, making his debut for Manchester United. Great turnout it's been.
No, amazing. I mean, but it makes sense. I flew in for this today. I'm going back from Manchester to Dublin tomorrow. I'm doing the Late Show tomorrow night. But I wouldn't have missed this. I was born in 1965, so I was quite young for George, but if I look into the album of my memory, George Best looms very, very large. My father adored him. I saw him play when he was very young. It's funny, at the opening of tonight, when Mike Parkinson showed a clip of when George took the ball out of Gordon Banks' hand, I was at that match. And when George passed, I always remember I was asked to do a fan's obituary in the Independent newspaper, and I wrote that I know that I was there with my dad. Anyway, on Football Focus, when they did an obituary for George, it was just at that time when you were able to stop the programme, rewind, look, and I watched it, and there I am, the top of my head, and my father furious that the goal was disallowed, and I've got a still of that in my living room. I've got a photo of my two heroes, George having realised he's just the goal's been disallowed, and my dad in the background.
The thing about George Best is he's a favourite player for so many people, not only the guys that remember him playing because they grew up watching him play, but even the younger guys. He's one of those players that really cuts through all the age barriers, doesn't he?
No, of course. It's like great artists always do that. Art, sport, it's timeless. When I used to come and say, I used to hitch from, I used to get the Lawrencetown ferry and hitch from Scotland down, and I would always go, and at a time like when I was first really going to United, when I was probably about 17, 18, I used to go into all the pubs in Salford and stuff, and there used to be a kind of a new lounge in an old barn. I'd go into the old barn and say, who's the greatest, and all of them used to, like, dewy-eyed, just say, oh, George. And also, for someone who grew up in Northern Ireland, George, during the very darkest times of a terrible conflict, was one of the real beacons of light and hope and everything. George made us think, growing up in Northern Ireland, that you could be from a place that wasn't just about conflict, that wasn't about division. George brought everyone together. He was an artist,
I was going to say, George was the ultimate unifying. He united people of Ireland, didn't he? So it doesn't matter where you came from, and Ireland has always been a little bit divided, but he united people.
He united people of the world. Art does that. Sport does that. The two great collisions, sport and art. And George was the epicenter of them both.
It makes you proud to be Irish.
God, I met him. This is God's truth. And it's not meant in any way arrogantly. I was doing a chat show in, I don't know, I guess when Bloody Sunday and stuff was out, maybe 2002, but I was doing one in Dublin, and I knew he was on it. And I was in such a state about meeting him, such a state. Because, when I was young, I had a George Best ring, a George Best necklace. I had a Granny Rainey who wasn't really my granny. We always had a granny that wasn't your granny, who knitted me. She was a great knitter, and she'd knitted me this amazing kind of sweater that was red and black, and on the back of it had a kind of a black woolen mane of George's hair. But anyway, and I was in makeup before this chat show, and I said, is he here? And they said, yeah, I think he's in the green room. And I was beside myself, and I was, I suppose, quite successful at that stage. Anyway, I walked into the green room at RT, and in front of me there's this kind of slightish man. And I kind of went, oh, and he turned around and he went, Jimmy Nesbitt, great to meet you. My life was complete. He was everything. Everything.
He's quite a shy person as well, though, wasn't he?
Shy but dry, funny, intelligent, and also just amazing. I mean, he was gorgeous, Yeah. And it's so important that, something like tonight, it's so great to see Paddy Crane there, Mike Summerby, Brian Cade, Alan Gordon, David Gill. You know, United is built on these things. I would have swum here to be here tonight. But also I'm here with a very good friend. I'm here as a guest, actually, of a very good friend of George's, Ron Wood. Ron I've known, he's a very good friend of Sir Alex and within that kind of group of friends. But Ron knew George very well, and in fact Ron opened up Manchester United, the first Manchester United shop in Belfast, which George came over to open. So Ron asked me to come and I was here in a heartbeat.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. Thanks for speaking to
No,
us.
my pleasure. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, James. One of the greatest actors of this century. There's no doubt about that.
Thanks, Michael.
Cheers.